All right. Okay, so today is another episode of Tuesdays with Audi, and of course, I am your host, Audi. Now I'm Dr. B. but now that we actually saw how that entire journey ended in terms of the story time with the no yet last week, so that kind of show you that, guys, that I've not necessarily been working a full-time position for the past 2 months. I think it's been, because the 24th of this month, which is today, marks that, I guess, that 60-day period in terms of when I last had a full-time employment. So what have I been doing? I've been working on a project that I started last year, Black Friday, which was on the 29th of November. So for the past month and a half or so, I've been working on trying to get that accomplished. So stay tuned to the end of this particular video so you can actually hear more about it. And so let's get started on today's episode of Tuesdays with Audi. It is currently sometime after 9, so let's see what we can do with today's topic. So a faithful supporter and follower and subscriber of Tuesdays with Audi sent me a request in terms of a topic that they wanted me to discuss. The person's name is Avriel. They're in grad school at the current moment, and they're pursuing an applied math degree. And so the question they asked me, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, was something dealing with imposter syndrome. I didn't know what imposter syndrome was, but she sent me the question and then I had to look it up, and she also sent me a resource in terms of the definition that she saw, and she had me read it. The first 2 times I read it, I was like, this makes no sense. And then I looked at it and I thought about it and I read it again. And I was like, oh, this is what they mean. It's like, oh, they have a name for this? And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I knew this. But imposter syndrome, the first question she asked, what is it? So of course she already know, but let me just let you guys know on what it is. Imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern of self-doubt on an individual about their skills, their accomplishments, and their talents. And it's an internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Don't quote me in terms of the definition, but that is pretty much the idea in terms of what it's pretty much someone doubting their abilities and they having the fear of being exposed as fraud. So yes, that is imposter syndrome. A question was, have you ever experienced it, particularly in relation to your grad school journey? So, have I experienced it in grad school? Of course the answer is yes. I didn't know what it was. Of course I experienced it now that I know, identify what it is. So my personal experience in terms of grad school, the first time I think I kind of had an exposure to it was when I did this class called Partial Differential Equation 2. It's called PDE 2. The class, it was a pretty small class in terms of less than 10 students. And I remember sitting in the class, it's like, oh my gosh, this teacher is... I took the teacher's class before for PDE 1, and they did such an awesome job for the class, and they passed the class with a B, which was, not in terms of my standard, but nonetheless, I got a B in the class. So PDE 2 was, of course, another class after it. And, everybody in the class was, we enjoyed the way the teacher taught the class, and we were having such a good time in terms of learning. And then, the first exam came. Took the first exam, and, got the results back after the exam. And I tell you, no lie, I look at the grade on that test, and I had an 11%. 11%. Listen to me. I look at that. I was like, what is this? It's like I've never, in my entire time in terms of taking a math class, ever seen a grade of 11% ever. And so I remember leaving the class, looking at that test, and I don't even remember what happened in that class that day. All I recall was seeing that grade, and it was like, no, this is not it. This is not me. This is definitely not something that I tend to see. And so when I left the class, I called up my undergrad advisor. I'm going to drop her name inside that, Miss Dr. Humes. I called her on the phone, and I was telling her about the grade, and I was like, I've never seen this. It's like, how could this possibly happen? It's like, I've done the work in undergrad. I've done the work in grad school. I've gotten the accomplishments in terms of saying that, I'm good enough in order for me to do this. But it's like, why is it I'm failing this class? And she's like, don't worry about it, Audi. It's like, it's going to be okay. I'm like, no, it's not going to be okay. It's like, this is not supposed to happen. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And, she's like, just go home, get some sleep, and wake up and then think about it. And I was like, no, Miss Humes, I think I'm gonna just quit. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put in these documents to actually, take myself out of this program because this is making no sense. It's like, Audi, don't do it. Just go home, sleep, and then come back and then look at it all over again. And I went to sleep, wake up the next day, went to class, and after after the next class, and then the teacher came in. It's like he told us what the highest grade in the class was, and it wasn't that good in terms of the highest grade because it was less than 50%. But after I realized this, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like even though I did bad, I didn't really do bad, but it's like I need to do better. And so in terms of me personally, the only way I could do better is for me to actually go ahead and grind in terms of what I'm accustomed to do in terms of when I actually get something wrong. The next question was like, what was it like? How did it impact your grad school journey? Did it make your grad school journey more of a challenge? How did it make you feel? When did you feel it most? Of course, I felt it the most when I started doing my research. How did it impact? I think in terms of me wanting to actually prove myself in terms that I was capable of doing the work. In terms of going in and continuing to study, working hard, burning the midnight oil. It's like I did all of that because I wanted to show to everybody that this kid from the ghetto and this black kid in this private school in the U.S. was capable of achieving this accolade that I so much wanted to actually get. And I kind of felt okay, I was inadequate of actually continuing at that point because now it's like I kind of had too much. I had too much of a bigger dream in terms of what I wanted to accomplish. Because now it's like all the obstacles were stacked against me for me not to be here. But here I am trying to prove everybody and even myself wrong that I need to be here. And now this grade and this journey that I'm going through is putting these things in my way, telling me that you don't belong here. This is not where you're supposed to be. There is no way you are supposed to be here. And so the next question they asked is like, did you recognize it for what it was? Of course I didn't recognize it for what it was because I didn't know what it was until I think in terms of being able to identify something for what it is. It's one of the greatest things that can help you in terms of freeing yourself from it. And because I didn't know what it was, I went right back in terms of what I was accustomed to doing, which is working hard, burning the midnight oil, doing the things that I know helped me in order for me to get to that place. It's like I didn't change anything about my approach in terms of it. But the next question was like, how did you deal with it? Coping strategies. Of course, coping strategies was in terms of, I guess, work harder. Because the harder you work, the more likely it is that you are going to get it. And the more likely it is that you're going to make the connection in terms of the things that you understand and those that you don't understand. And hopefully, you can go ahead and create a group study with your classmates so that they can assist you in terms of helping you to understand what it is that they learned from their perspective so that you can also benefit from it in addition to going to the lectures and your own personal studies. How did it ever go away? If so, when and how? What made it go away or easier to deal? Nope. It never went away. That imposter syndrome, I think it's content. And if anybody is trying to accomplish anything outside of their comfort zone, I think at some point, even though you are successful and you have accomplished and you are skillful in whatever it is that you are achieving in order for you, whatever you are pursuing, you will experience some form of imposter syndrome where you feel as though at some point someone is going to call you out in terms of being a fraud because you got to where you were because of luck. And I think that is one of the biggest things about anybody in terms of wanting to hustle, wanting to grind, wanting to prove that they are capable, wanting to actually prove to everybody who doubted them that they are able to actually make this accomplishment despite all the odds being stacked against them. And I think when you actually are so accustomed to chasing the next success, chasing the next goal, trying to prove yourself, it's like eventually, there's going to be a chance where you just find that wall that's going to test your ability and test you mentally and physically and emotionally whether or not you are really capable of doing what it is that you think you are able to do. And that's a difficult place to be in. And I don't want nobody to be there. I don't want nobody to experience it. But the reality is that if you are going through an education system, whether you're in high school, whether you're in undergrad, whether you're in grad school, whether you are on a job, oh my gosh, you are going to experience some form of imposter syndrome. And yeah, the hardest question is like when you come to reality with it, I think the most difficult question is to ask yourself, is it really imposter syndrome or is it just you? And if it's not imposter syndrome, then you have to sit down with that reality that maybe you are just not good enough. And then, so what do you do in that moment when you realize that maybe it's you that's not just good enough? So, what is it that I can do so that I can be good enough, or find something that I am good enough at so that I can find the fulfillment and the joy that I had in terms of pursuing this goal that led me to pursue this goal so that I can continue to enjoy this process of attaining this particular accomplishment. And so that's a tough question. Yes, imposter syndrome. Thank you, Avriel, for submitting the topic and also for the questions. I hope I answered your question in terms of my personal experiences. In terms of the coping, I may also go on and say, well, finding the students that are doing well in the class. For you personally, in terms of mentally, I guess, also finding some things that you really enjoy that you do outside of the classroom, and then finding 30 minutes or so to do them, and not necessarily being so, not being so fixated in terms of trying to prove yourself and everybody wrong, but more so, just taking the time to do something you enjoy, finding those students in your class that help you, and also going to the professor's office hours and asking questions, because sometimes just taking the extra step outside of your own headspace to find out where someone else is seeing something can help you so much more to see something from a different perspective that may add value to how you perceived you saw it. And so, in terms of any coping mechanism, I can't tell you what will work and what won't work, but those are the things that worked for me, and hopefully it helped you or anybody else who listened to this in dealing with their imposter syndrome. And so, yeah, that's the end. Like I said, that's the end of today's episode. And this is a secret. Please don't tell nobody. So if you made it to the end, I've been working, like I said at the beginning of the video, I've been working on a project, and hopefully my goal is to have it done in 2021. My goal was to kind of get it done this year, but due to circumstances in terms of COVID and everything else, in terms of work as well, because it wasn't like it was going to be done this year, but the goal was try to get it done this year. But let's see how it goes in 2021. So yes, I'm working on a book that I started last year, Black Friday, and it's almost been a year since I've been working on it, during my free time from work and everything else that I'm engaged in. And so far, so good. I feel as though it's getting to the point where it's almost ready, but there's still a few more things that needs to be done. And so hopefully by mid 2021, it will be done. And so for everybody, if you wanna, keep up with it, then go ahead and send me an email to tuesdayswithaudi@gmail.com. I'm gonna put it in the description so you can actually get the email for this particular channel, which I'm gonna be using for the book in terms of its promotion. So yeah, in addition to that, anybody who is also interested in some tutoring, hit your boy up. If you know someone who feeling the man, hit your boy up. Let's go, let's make it happen. So with that said, deuces, I'm Audi. Peace, love, and enjoyment. Until the next one, thank you all. Continue. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Be safe. If you travel, please make sure you keep yourself safe and ensure that your family is safe as well. So be safe, everybody, during the Thanksgiving holidays. For those that are celebrating in the US and anybody else who actually want to partake in it globally, then go ahead and be safe and enjoy the time with family and friends and be in the moments. And even those arguments, enjoy them, because once you leave and you go back to your preoccupations and what you do on a day-to-day, you are going to miss it. So enjoy those moments and stay safe. Peace. I'm Audi. Deuces. Until next time.